Hi there, this is Sarah Kaiser from LeBou Sewing Center, and today I would like to talk to you about the Teflon foot. The Teflon foot is a very simple foot to use. There's nothing super complicated about the foot at all. It's just about learning when is the right time to use the Teflon foot. So the Teflon foot is kind of like when you think about baking or nonstick pans, right? So the Teflon area on the bottom of the foot is this white piece. You can see there's kind of two different shades of white. So the center part here has a special coating on it that's going to allow this foot to glide over things that your normal foot might stick on. So some of the examples of the things that your normal sewing foot might stick on, this is cotton fabric that has been laminated using like an iron-on lamination, so you can see the shiny part here. There's a little bit of stick to it, so it has a little bit of drag to it when I run my hands across it. That's a good indication that my foot is probably going to drag on that as well. This is vinyl, so it's vinyl with a like a canvas type coating. It's relatively thick. This is a different type of coating vinyl. It's a little bit more shimmery. This one has like a flannel backing to it. This is clear plastic. It's got kind of like what you would see like on a driver's license or credit card sleeve, so that part that you can see through, but it's protected. So these are just a couple of different styles of fabric that you might experience some uneven stitches or some shifting of the fabric. So if the foot is catching, so if your normal foot is dragging, so you can see this one barely, it doesn't move at all on this fabric. It's just not going anywhere. Then when I put this fabric foot on there and I apply pressure downward, it doesn't matter. It glides right over top of it. So if you're using something like this and the fabric isn't moving, then what's going to happen to your stitches? They're going to be uneven. You might even experience some skip stitches, but you're definitely going to have like little stitches and then big stitches and then little stitches and then big stitches, and you're going to have to really feel like you're trying to force the fabric through. So this is a traditional snap-on foot from Brother or Baby Lock, and I am just going to place it on my machine here. I don't need to worry about whether or not it's high shank or low shank in this instance because it's snap-on. So I'm using my standard foot that I have on the sewing machine here. And I'm just going to stitch through using a couple of these fabrics as an example. So I'm going to move my needle back to the center needle position here, just because it'll be a little bit easier for you to see. I am going to increase my stitch length a little bit. That's just a general rule of something you might want to do when you are stitching on something that is vinyl or cork or leather. All of those fabrics types are also appropriate for this Teflon foot because they definitely will make the fabric glide through a little bit easier. So I have the machine threaded and I've got the same color thread in my bobbin. I am currently using a thread that's a little bit thicker. This is about a 30 weight thread, so it's a little thicker just so it'll be a little bit more fun to see. And I have a top stitch needle in here. You may need to experiment with different types of needles. Once you have the foot, that's just the first part of the process. Then you have to pick your thread needle combination, and you might even need to adjust your stitch length and or your upper thread tension a little bit just to get something that looks as beautiful on the top as the bottom. So here you can see it's nice even stitches. We're super excited that everything glides through exactly the way we want it to, and here's our bottom. So this one is not as pretty on the bobbin side as it is on the top, but it's actually not too bad. Sometimes when you're using something like this, there's no place for the thread to bury, so you get something that looks like a real, almost like a real railroad track. I can actually see the fabric actually trying to go in between these two layers here, so I could adjust my thread tension just a little bit. I might want to make my upper thread tension just a little bit tighter to try to pull that bobbin thread up just a smidge. We'll go through here. you can definitely see that pulls that through with no effort on my part. And here we go. Again, really fun, nice stitches, and this one is actually perfect on the back. All we did was change the different style of fabrics that we have underneath here. So this one is just as pretty on the back as it is on the front. And this is an example of something that I might sew on quite frequently, actually. I love to make bags. And so when I'm making bags, a lot of times I like to make the strap out of the decorative vinyl that I might have put on top of the bag. So it's really important for me to be able to get close to the edge. And so I'm going to move my needle position all the way over to the right, so as far as it will go. And I am going to be stitching. Now, I'm not sure how you can kind of see underneath here. At that point, right now, where my needle position is kind of just on the inside edge of this toe. I actually have my fabric lined up with the 1/4 inch mark on my throat plate. And what's going to happen is I'm really only using one of my feed dogs here. So when I'm working with material that's kind of sticky like this, and I've only got one feed dog underneath, it is super important that my foot not drag, because if it does, then my stitches are really going to be unproportioned. They're going to be all over the place. And you can't take stitches out of vinyl. Once they're there, there's no going back. You can't close those holes up. So you can see the front and the back. So it's important that I'm able to get a nice even stitch. And especially when I'm using just one feed dog, I want to make sure that the fabric is going to go through smoothly. So my settings for these, I'm sure someone is going to ask me, this is a 30 weight thread. It's a variegated thread. It's a polyester sewing thread. I have a size 90 top stitch needle in here, and I have my tension set to 4.0. So this is just the default setting of this particular tension. There is nothing special about it. I didn't adjust anything, but you can see how beautiful this stitch is. And I'm going to stitch right down the center here, move my needle position back to the center, and just let you see how effortlessly this glides through. So I am not pushing or pulling. All I am doing is gently guiding, and it is going to pull this through all by itself. That is the beautiful thing about the Teflon Foot. So you can see I did not change my stitch length on here. This was the default setting at 2.5 versus the 3.0. You can kind of see the difference. The reason that I do like to change when I'm working with materials like this to the 3.0 is because the closer your stitches are together, the more apt it is to actually just perforate right through, which is not something that you want to happen when you're sewing with stuff like this, because that can happen. So again, this is the Teflon Foot, and you can see it's got really good slippery slide underneath the bottom of this foot. It's going to make that all of your fun sewing projects just that much easier. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Teflon Foot today. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.